The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Assembly was the largest room ever built by any species in the known universe. It floated in neutral space, far from any star system, a massive station shaped like a ring. Inside, thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform. Representatives from over 200 alien species filled those seats today. Their bodies came in all shapes. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some floated in liquid tanks. Some were made of pure light. But they all shared one thing in common. They all looked down at the small group of humans standing on the central platform. Ambassador Una Kim stood at the front of the human delegation. She was a woman of 43 years with short black hair and steady eyes. She wore the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Behind her stood Admiral Park Jae, a tall man with grey at his temples and a face that showed nothing. Captain Han Tai waited beside him, younger and more alert, his eyes moving across the chamber like a soldier watching for threats. Dr. Sora Lee stood at the back, a tablet in her hands, recording everything. Una had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. 50 years ago, humanity had made first contact with the galaxy. They were told they were too young, too primitive, to join the Galactic Council as full members. They were given probationary status. They were told to prove themselves. And for 50 years, that is exactly what they did. She activated her display. Holographic images filled the air above her. Charts, statistics, reports. Distinguished members of the Assembly, Una began. Her voice was calm and clear. Earth formally requests elevation to full membership in the Galactic Council. We present the following evidence of our contributions over the past 5 decades. The first image showed a star map with human ships marked in blue. Human engineers have maintained and upgraded 47 jump gates across the outer territories. These gates now operate at 300% improved efficiency. The second image showed medical facilities on distant worlds. Human doctors have developed treatments for 17 diseases that previously had no cure. We have shared these treatments freely with all species. The third image showed battlefields. Human negotiators have successfully mediated 3 major interstellar conflicts. The war between the Helix Confederation and the Morn Republic ended because of human diplomacy. 200 billion lives were saved. She continued for 20 minutes. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanitarian aid, scientific breakthroughs, security operations, trade agreements. Humans had given everything they could to this galaxy for 50 years. When she finished, Una lowered her hands. We have proven ourselves. We ask only to be recognized as equals. Nothing more. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then High Speaker Volan rose from his elevated throne at the top of the chamber. He was a tall creature with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His species, the Vorith, had led the council for 3,000 years. They believed they were the wisest and most advanced beings in existence. Volan smiled. It was not a kind smile. Ambassador Kim, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. The council thanks you for your presentation. It is clear that humans have been useful during your probationary period. Useful. The word hung in the air. However, Volan continued, the council cannot grant full membership to a species that is still so young. Humanity is only 400 years into space travel. Most species here have been sailing the stars for tens of thousands of years. You are children playing with tools you do not fully understand. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Una kept her face neutral. With respect, High Speaker, our age should not matter. Our actions should speak for themselves. Your actions speak of potential, Volan replied, but also of danger. Humans are aggressive, unpredictable, emotional. These are not qualities we desire in full council members. From the military section of the chamber, Warlord Bren stood up. He was a massive creature covered in thick armor plates, a member of the Krath species known for their warrior culture. But even the Krath followed the council's orders. If I may, High Speaker, Bren said with a rough laugh. I have worked with humans on the Eastern Barrier. They are good fighters, I admit. Strong, brave. But they are not leaders. They are not thinkers. They are soldiers, workers, servants. He looked directly at the human delegation. Perhaps that is where they belong. Serving those who are wiser than them. They should be grateful we allow them to exist in our space at all. Laughter erupted across the chamber. Hundreds of alien voices joined together in amusement at the thought of humans as equals. Una felt the anger rise in her chest, but she did not let it show. She glanced back at Admiral Park J. His face was stone, but his eyes told her everything she needed to know. Enough. She looked to her right, where Delegate Miros sat in the lower section. He was from the Helix Confederation, one of the species humans had saved from war. His face was troubled. He did not laugh with the others, but he also did not speak. No one spoke for humanity. High Speaker Volan raised his 4 hands to quiet the chamber. The Council's decision is final. Humanity's request for full membership is denied. You may continue your probationary service. Perhaps in another 50 years, you will be ready. More laughter. Una stood very still. 50 years of work. 50 years of sacrifice. Millions of humans who had given their lives to help this galaxy. And they were laughed at. Called servants. Told to be grateful. She closed her tablet with a soft click. The laughter slowly died as the aliens noticed something strange. The humans were not reacting. They were not arguing. They were not begging. They were not even angry. They were simply done. Admiral Park J stepped forward and stood beside Una. Captain Han Tai and Dr. Sora Lee moved to join them. The 4 humans stood in a line, facing the thousands of aliens who had just humiliated them. Una spoke. Her voice was quiet, but somehow it reached every corner of the chamber. For 50 years, we asked for nothing but respect. We gave you our technology, our medicine, our soldiers, our lives. We asked only to be called equals. She paused. You have made your feelings clear. Earth accepts your decision. High Speaker Volan smiled triumphantly. A wise choice, Ambassador. You will find that continued service has its own rewards. Una looked at him. There was no anger in her eyes. There was something worse. There was nothing at all. You misunderstand, she said. Earth does not accept continued service. The smile faded from Volan's face. Earth withdraws from the Galactic Assembly. Effective immediately. Permanently. The chamber went completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. All human personnel will be recalled from all positions across the galaxy. All human technology sharing agreements are terminated. All human military support is ended. All human trade routes are closed. Una turned toward the exit. The other 3 humans turned with her. Wait, Volan said, his voice uncertain for the first time. You cannot simply leave. You need us. You need access to our trade networks, our technology, our protection. Admiral Park J stopped. He turned his head slightly, just enough to look at the High Speaker. No, he said calmly. We don't. The humans walked toward the massive doors of the Grand Chamber. You will regret this, Volan called out. You will come crawling back. All young species do. Una did not turn around. None of them did. The doors opened. The humans stepped through. And the doors closed behind them with a sound that echoed through the silent chamber like the ending of an age. No one laughed anymore. The corridor outside the Grand Chamber was long and empty. The walls were made of polished white stone that reflected the soft blue lights above. The footsteps of the 4 humans echoed as they walked. No one spoke. Ambassador Una Kim led the way, her back straight, her eyes forward. Admiral Park J walked beside her with the same steady pace he had used for 40 years of military service. Captain Han Tai stayed close behind them, his hand resting near his sidearm out of habit. Dr. Sora Lee walked to the rear, her fingers moving quickly across a tablet as she sent encrypted messages to Earth. Behind them, through the thick doors they had just passed, they could hear the chaos beginning. Raised voices. Arguments. Someone shouting for order. The Grand Chamber was falling into confusion. Good, Park J thought. Let them panic. They reached the lift that would take them to the docking level. As they waited for it to arrive, Han Tai finally broke the silence. That felt good, he said quietly. Sora looked up from her tablet. It felt necessary. There is a difference. Can it not be both? Han Tai replied with a small smile. The lift doors opened. They stepped inside. As the lift began to descend, Una let out a long breath. It was the first sign of emotion she had shown since leaving the chamber. 50 years, she said softly. My mother was part of the first diplomatic team. She believed we could earn their respect. She died believing that. Park Jae nodded slowly. Many good people believed that. They were not wrong to hope. But hope must have limits. What happens now? Han Tai asked. Park Jae looked at him. Now we go home. And we prepare for what comes next. The lift stopped. The doors opened to reveal the docking level, a massive hangar filled with ships from dozens of species. The human shuttle waited at the far end, a sleek grey vessel with Earth's flag painted on its side. A small crew of human soldiers stood guard around it. As the delegation walked toward their ship, they passed groups of aliens. Some watched them with confusion, others with amusement, a few with something that might have been concern. A Vorath official stepped into their path. He was younger than High Speaker Volan, with lighter blue skin and nervous eyes. Ambassador Kim, he said quickly. Please wait. The High Speaker wishes to speak with you privately. Perhaps this situation can still be resolved. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. Yuna stopped. She looked at the young official for a long moment. There was no misunderstanding, she said. Your High Speaker was perfectly clear. So were we. She stepped around him and continued walking. The official called after her. You are making a terrible mistake. Humanity cannot survive alone. The galaxy is too dangerous. Park Jae paused beside him. The Admiral was a head taller than the Vorath, and when he spoke, his voice was like ice. We have survived worse than the galaxy, he said. We have survived ourselves. He walked away, leaving the official standing alone. The human delegation boarded their shuttle. The soldiers followed them inside. The ramp closed with a hiss of hydraulics. Inside the shuttle, the atmosphere changed. The formal stiffness melted away. Sora moved to a communication station and began coordinating with Earth Command. Han Tai checked the ship systems with practiced efficiency. Park Jae stood at the main viewport, watching the alien station grow smaller as they pulled away. Yuna sat down heavily in a seat. For the first time, she let the exhaustion show on her face. Do you think they understand what just happened? She asked. Park Jae did not turn from the window. Not yet. They believe we will return in a few days, apologize, and accept whatever scraps they offer us. They have never dealt with humans who refuse to submit. They will learn, Sora said from her station. Admiral, I have confirmation from Earth Command. Operation Homecoming is active. All human personnel across the galaxy have received the recall order.
Han tar visst led softly.
All of them. That is over 2 million people. 2,300,047, Sora replied precisely. Engineers, doctors, soldiers, scientists, diplomats, traders, all of them are returning home. Park Jae finally turned from the window. What is the estimated completion time? 72 hours for most personnel. Some remote postings may take up to 2 weeks. And the technology transfers. Sora checked her tablet. All human patents and technical data stored in Council databases are being deleted as we speak. We included backdoors in every system we gave them. They never thought to check.
Han tar löghed.
They really thought we were just helpful servants. They never considered that we might be smart enough to plan for this day. Yuna looked at him. We always planned for this day. From the very beginning. The first diplomatic team knew it might end this way. They hoped it would not, but they prepared anyway. She stood up and walked to stand beside Park Jae at the viewport. The alien station was now just a small point of light among the stars. My mother told me something before she died, Yuna said. She said that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our military. It is our ability to hope for the best while preparing for the worst. Park Jae nodded. Your mother was a wise woman. They stood in silence, watching the stars. Back on the council station, chaos continued to spread through the Grand Chamber. High Speaker Volan had called for order a dozen times, but the representatives would not calm down. Delegate Miros pushed his way to the central platform. High Speaker, we must contact the humans immediately. We must apologize. We must negotiate. Volan looked at him with contempt. Apologize? To primitives? They are bluffing. They will return when they realize how much they need us. And if they do not return, then we will survive without them. The council existed for 10,000 years before humans arrived. We will exist for 10,000 more after they are gone. Warlord Bren laughed from his seat. The Helix delegate worries too much. Humans are useful, yes, but they are not important. The galaxy will barely notice their absence. A young aide rushed into the chamber, pushing through the crowd. He ran to Volan and whispered urgently in his ear. Volan's face changed. The contempt faded. Something else took its place. Something that looked almost like fear. What is it? Miros demanded. Volan was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice strange. Our long-range sensors have detected something unusual. Human trading vessels across the galaxy have changed course. All of them. At the same time. Changed course to where? Bren asked. Volan swallowed. Home. They are all going home. The chamber fell silent. All of them. Miros asked quietly. All of them. Every human ship in the galaxy is returning to Earth space. It is coordinated. Planned. They must have prepared this in advance. Bren stood up slowly. That is impossible. That would require years of planning. That would mean they always intended to leave. No one answered him. In the silence, a single thought passed through every mind in the chamber. What if the humans were never the servants? What if they were something else entirely? And what if the Council had just made the worst mistake in its 10,000-year history? The stars outside the chamber windows seemed suddenly darker, colder, more empty. And somewhere in that emptiness, 2 million humans were going home. They were not running away. They were preparing. 3 weeks passed after the humans walked out of the Grand Chamber. At first, the galaxy celebrated. High Speaker Volan gave speeches about the strength of the Galactic Council. He reminded everyone that the Council had existed for 10,000 years before humans arrived. He said the departure of one small species meant nothing. The galaxy would continue as it always had. Warlord Bren held a feast in his home system. He invited military leaders from across the Council and laughed about the foolish humans who thought they could survive alone. They drank and celebrated and told jokes about the primitives who had dared to demand equality. But slowly, things began to change. The first problem appeared on the trade routes. Human security fleets had protected the major shipping lanes between the outer colonies and the core worlds. Without them, pirate attacks increased. At first, it was just a few raids. Then it was a few dozen. Then it was hundreds. Council fleets were sent to replace the humans. But Council fleets had not fought real battles in centuries. They were large and impressive looking, but their crews had never faced true danger. When they encountered the pirates, they often retreated. The pirates grew bolder. Trade slowed. Prices rose. The second problem appeared in the medical facilities. Human doctors had developed treatments that no other species could replicate. When they left, they took their knowledge with them. Patients who depended on human medicine began to suffer. Some died. Hospitals sent desperate messages to Earth, begging for help. The messages went unanswered. The third problem appeared at the jump gates. Human engineers had maintained and upgraded the massive portals that allowed faster-than-light travel. Without them, the gates began to fail. Small failures at first. A gate that took 3 days to repair instead of 3 hours. Then larger failures. A gate that shut down completely, stranding hundreds of ships. Then critical failures. A gate that exploded, killing everyone aboard the station around it. On the colony world of Thalos Prime, Governor Seric stared at the empty communication console in his office. 3 weeks ago, a team of human security forces had protected his world from raiders. Now they were gone. Yesterday, the raiders had returned. They had burned 2 cities before anyone could respond. Where are the Council forces? Seric demanded. His aide shook his head. They say they are stretched too thin. Too many worlds are asking for help. They will send a patrol in 6 months. 6 months. My people will be dead in 6 months. The aide had no answer. On the space station Nexus 7, Chief Engineer Threll worked desperately to repair the main jump gate. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. Warning lights flashed red across every surface. I do not understand this system, Threll admitted to his crew. The humans designed it. They never taught us how it truly works. I am guessing at every step. If you guess wrong, one of his workers asked, then the gate collapses, and everyone in this sector is trapped. They work through the night. They work through the next day. On the third day, the gate exploded. Nexus 7 was destroyed. 4,000 people died. At the Galactic Council headquarters, Delegate Miros demanded an emergency session. For 3 weeks, he had been sending warnings that no one listened to. Now he would make them listen. "Hi, Speaker," he said, standing at the central platform where Una Kim had stood just weeks before. "The situation is critical. We have lost 12 major trade routes to piracy. We have lost 7 jump gates to mechanical failure. We have lost 3 colony worlds to raiders. And we have lost an estimated 100,000 lives across the galaxy." Volan sat on his throne, looking irritated. These are temporary difficulties. The galaxy is simply adjusting to the absence of human personnel. Temporary. Miros could not hide his anger. "Hi, Speaker. These difficulties are growing worse every day. The humans did more for this galaxy than we ever realized. They were holding everything together, and we did not even notice until they stopped." Warlord Bren stood up. "Delegate Miros speaks from fear. The humans were useful workers, nothing more. We will train our own engineers. We will build our own security forces. We do not need them." "How long will that training take?" Miros demanded. "Months? Years? What happens to the galaxy while we wait?" No one answered. Miros took a deep breath. "We must contact Earth. We must apologize for how they were treated. We must negotiate their return." Volan's eyes went cold. "The Council does not apologize to lesser species. We do not beg. Then we will watch this galaxy fall apart around us while our pride destroys everything." The chamber erupted in argument. Some supported Miros. Most supported Volan. The debate lasted for hours and accomplished nothing. That night, Miros sat alone in his quarters. His tablet showed the latest reports from across the galaxy. More attacks. More failures. More deaths. And through it all, Earth remained silent. No messages.
No responses.
Nothing. He thought about the human ambassador, Una Kim. He remembered the moment she had announced Earth's withdrawal. There had been no anger in her eyes.
No satisfaction.
Just a quiet certainty that said this moment had been coming for a very long time. They knew, Miros realized. They always knew we would betray them. And they prepared. His thoughts were interrupted by an urgent message. He opened it and felt his blood turn cold. The Void Swarm had broken through the Eastern Barrier. The Void Swarm was the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. They were creatures from the space between stars, beings of pure hunger that consumed everything in their path. For 200 years, the Council had kept them contained behind a massive defensive line called the Eastern Barrier. But the barrier had been maintained by human forces. Human ships. Human soldiers. Human commanders. 3 weeks ago, those forces had withdrawn. Miros ran to the communication center. Officers and aides rushed past him in a panic. Screens showed the tactical situation. The Void Swarm was pouring through the gap in the barrier like water through a broken dam. Council forces in the area were being overwhelmed. How many swarm ships? Miros asked. A young officer looked at him with terror in her eyes. Thousands. Maybe more. We cannot count them all. And our defensive forces? Retreating. They cannot hold. Miros grabbed the officer's arm. Contact Earth. Contact them now. Tell them what is happening. Tell them we need help. Sir, Earth is not responding to any communications. They have been silent since the withdrawal. Try anyway. Try every channel. Send every message. Beg if you have to. The officer nodded and turned to her console. Miros stood in the chaos of the communication center and watched the screens show the death of the Eastern Barrier. Ships vanished in flashes of light. Stations went dark. Colony worlds sent final distress calls that no one could answer. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the Void Swarm advanced toward the heart of the galaxy. In the Grand Chamber, High Speaker Volan finally understood the truth. He had dismissed the humans as primitives. He had called them servants. He had laughed at their request for respect. But the humans had been holding back the darkness all along. And now the darkness was coming. Volan looked at the tactical display and spoke a single word.
Impossible.
But it was not impossible. It was simply the consequence of his arrogance. And consequences, unlike pride, could not be ignored. The void swarm moved faster than anyone expected. Within 2 weeks, they had consumed the entire eastern sector. 30 colony worlds went silent. Billions of lives were lost. And still the swarm advanced. Council fleets tried to form new defensive lines. They failed. The swarm broke through every position within days. The creatures were endless. For every ship destroyed, 10 more appeared. Council commanders had never faced an enemy like this. They had spent centuries playing political games and attending ceremonies. They had forgotten how to fight a real war. High Speaker Volan watched the daily reports with growing terror. The confident arrogance he had shown in the Grand Chamber was gone. In its place was the pale fear of a leader who had finally realized his mistake. Delegate Miros stood before him in a private meeting. Earth is still not responding. We have sent thousands of messages. Nothing. Volan's 4 hands trembled slightly. Then I will go myself. I will travel to human space and speak to them directly. They may not let you enter. Then I will wait at their border until they do. Miros nodded slowly. Perhaps that is wise. You are the one who insulted them. You should be the one to apologize. 3 days later, Volan's personal ship arrived at the edge of human space. What he saw there made him freeze in shock. When the humans had joined the galaxy 50 years ago, their territory had been small. A single star system with 1 habitable planet. Their ships had been crude. Their weapons had been weak. They had been primitives just learning to walk among the stars. That was what Volan had expected to see. What he actually saw was something else entirely. The border of human space was marked by a defensive grid of impossible scale. Thousands of weapons platforms floated in perfect formation. Each one was larger than a council battleship. Between them, sensor arrays stretched across millions of kilometers, watching everything that approached. And behind that grid, Volan could see the human fleet. Ships. Thousands of them. Warships of designs he had never seen before. They were sleek and deadly looking, built for one purpose and one purpose only. Combat. This is impossible, Volan whispered. Where did they get this technology? Where did they get these resources? His captain shook his head. I do not know, High Speaker. Our sensors cannot even identify most of these weapon systems. They are beyond anything in our databases. A communication signal came through. Volan's crew put it on the main screen. Admiral Park J appeared before him. The human's face was calm and expressionless. Behind him, Volan could see the bridge of a massive warship, filled with officers working at advanced stations. High Speaker Volan, Park J said. You are at the border of human space. You are not welcome here. Turn around and leave. Volan swallowed his pride. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. Admiral Park J. I have come to speak with you. With your government. The situation in the galaxy has become desperate. The void swarm is advancing. Our forces cannot stop them. We need your help. Park J's expression did not change. The void swarm is your problem now. We gave you 50 years of service. 50 years of holding that line. You thanked us by calling us servants. I know what was said. I was wrong. The council was wrong. Please. I am asking. I am begging for your help. For a long moment, Park J said nothing. Then a second figure appeared on the screen. Ambassador Yunakimo. High Speaker, she said. Do you remember what you told us in the Grand Chamber? You said humans were too young, too aggressive, too unpredictable to be full council members. You said we should be grateful you allowed us to exist in your space. Volan could not meet her eyes. I remember. And now you come to our space, begging for our help. How things change. Ambassador Kim, please. I will give you anything. Full membership. Reparations. Whatever you want. Just help us stop the swarm. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her words cut like knives. You still do not understand. For 50 years, we worked for the galaxy. We gave everything we had. We asked for nothing but respect. And when we asked to be called equals, You laughed at us. She stepped closer to the screen. We did not leave because we were angry. We left because we finally understood the truth. The galaxy did not want partners. It wanted servants. And humans do not serve. Volan felt tears forming in his eyes. Then you will let billions die. You will let the swarm consume everything. Park J answered, Earth protects Earth. That is our only concern now. Everything we built for our own survival. We always knew this day might come. The day when the galaxy turned against us, or the day when we had to stand alone. We prepared for both. He gestured at the fleet visible through the bridge windows. Every ship you see took 50 years to build. Every weapon system. Every defense platform. While we were serving your galaxy, we were also preparing for the worst. This is what humans do. We hope for the best, but we never forget that hope is not a strategy. Volan looked at the massive human fleet and finally understood the truth. The humans had never been primitives. They had never been servants. They had been playing a role, waiting, preparing, building in secret. And now they had revealed what they truly were. A species that could match the entire Galactic Council in military power. A species that had hidden their true strength for 50 years. A species that no one should have underestimated. How? Volan asked weakly. How did you build all this without us knowing? Una smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because you never looked. You were so sure we were primitives that you never bothered to check what we were doing in our own space. You saw what you expected to see. Helpful servants. Useful workers. You never imagined we might be something more. The communications signal flickered. Park J spoke again. Hi speaker, I will give you some advice. Go home. Gather your fleets. Fight the swarm with everything you have. Maybe you will win. Maybe you will not. But Earth will not fight your war for you. Not anymore. Please, Volan said one last time. There are billions of innocent people in the galaxy. They did not insult you. They did not laugh at you. Will you let them die because of what the Council did? Una and Park J exchanged a glance. Something passed between them. A question without words. An answer without speech. Una turned back to the screen. We will consider your words. But we make no promises. Now leave our space. The communication ended. Volan's ship turned and began the long journey back to Council space. Behind them, the human fleet watched them go. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Park J stood at the viewport and watched the alien ship disappear into the distance. Captain Han Tai approached him. Sir, do you think she was right? About the innocent people? Park J did not answer for a long moment. Yes, he finally said. She was right. The Council insulted us, but most of the galaxy did nothing wrong. They are victims of their leader's arrogance, just as we were. So what do we do? Park J turned to face his crew. Every officer on the bridge was watching him, waiting for his decision. We wait, he said. We watch. And when the time is right, we do what humans have always done. What is that, sir? Park J looked back at the stars. We save people, even when they do not deserve it. Somewhere in the distance, the void swarm continued its advance, and the galaxy continued to burn. But in human space, a decision was being made. A decision that would change everything. The void swarm reached the core systems of the galaxy 6 weeks after they broke through the eastern barrier. Council headquarters was their next target. Trillions of lives hung in the balance. Delegate Miros had taken command of what remained of the Council's defense forces. High Speaker Volan had retreated to his private chambers and refused to come out. He spent his days staring at reports and mumbling about how unfair everything was. He was useless now. Miros did not have time for useless people. He stood on the bridge of the Council's largest battleship, the Pride of Vorith. Around him, the remnants of 500 Council fleets had gathered for a final stand. It was the largest military force the galaxy had assembled in 1,000 years. It was not enough. The void swarm appeared on the sensors like a dark cloud spreading across the stars. Their numbers were beyond counting. For every Council ship, there were 100 swarm creatures. For every weapon fired, 1,000 enemies remained. All ships, prepare for battle, Miros ordered. His voice was steady, but his hand shook. Today we fight for survival. Today we fight for our families, our worlds, our future. If we fall, the galaxy falls with us. The council ships moved into formation. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. Every soul aboard every vessel said their silent prayers to whatever gods they believed in. The swarm advanced. The battle began. For 3 hours, the council forces fought with everything they had. They destroyed thousands of swarm creatures. But thousands more took their place. Ships exploded. Stations fell. The defensive line crumbled piece by piece. On the bridge of the Pride of Vorith, Miros watched his fleet dying around him. "Sir, we have lost 40% of our forces," an officer reported. "We cannot hold much longer." Miros closed his eyes. This was the end. Not just for him, but for everyone. The swarm would consume the core systems, then move outward until nothing remained. The galaxy would become a graveyard. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I am sorry we failed you all." And then something changed. The sensors screamed with new contacts. Thousands of them, appearing from jump space directly behind the swarm's main force. Miros opened his eyes and stared at the display. Ships. Human ships. Thousands of them. The human fleet emerged from nowhere like avenging spirits. They were not the crude vessels of 50 years ago. These were warships of terrifying power and beauty. They moved in perfect formation, every ship in exactly the right position, every weapon aimed at exactly the right target. At the head of the formation flew the largest ship Miros had ever seen. It was 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that glowed with barely contained energy. Its name was painted on the hull in letters 100 meters tall. Hope of Earth. On the bridge of the Hope of Earth, Admiral Park J stood at the center of controlled chaos. Officers shouted reports. Tactical displays showed the enemy positions. The entire battle was visible on the main screen, a swirl of light and death among the stars. Ambassador Yuna Kim stood beside him, watching the swarm with hard eyes. "All ships, this is Admiral Park J," he announced over the fleet-wide channel. "The Void Swarm threatened our galaxy once before. We stopped them then. We will stop them now. Today, humanity returns to the stars. Not as servants, not as soldiers for hire, but as protectors of all life." He paused. "Show them what humans can do." The human fleet opened fire. It was not a battle. It was a storm. Human weapons tore through the swarm like nothing the Council had ever seen. Energy beams that cut through dozens of enemies at once. Missiles that split into hundreds of smaller warheads. Fighters that moved faster than any sensor could track. Captain Han Tai led the fighter squadrons from his command ship. His voice was calm as he directed thousands of pilots into the heart of the enemy force. "Blue Squadron, cover the left flank. Gold Squadron, target those larger creatures. Red Squadron, with me. We are punching through to their command cluster." Dr. Sora Lee worked in the tactical center, her tablet connected directly to the ship's combat systems. She had designed half the weapons being used today. She had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. "Admiral, I am detecting the swarm central coordination node. If we destroy it, the smaller creatures will lose their direction." Park J nodded. "Show me." The tactical display highlighted a massive structure at the center of the swarm formation. It was ugly and organic looking, pulsing with dark energy. "All capital ships, concentrate fire on that target," Park J ordered. "Everything we have." The human fleet turned as one. Thousands of weapons locked onto the swarm's heart. They fired. The coordination node exploded in a flash of light that was visible across the entire battle. And just as Sora had predicted, the swarm fell into chaos. Creatures that had moved with unified purpose now scattered in confusion. They crashed into each other. They fled in random directions. They became easy targets. The council ships, which had been moments from destruction, suddenly found themselves facing a broken enemy. Miros stared at his displays in disbelief. "All ships, resume firing," he ordered. "Support the human forces. Push them back." For 2 more hours, the combined fleet hunted down the remaining swarm creatures. By the time it was over, nothing remained of the enemy but scattered debris floating among the stars. The galaxy was saved. 3 days later, the Grand Chamber was full once again. But everything was different now. The human delegation stood on the central platform. Admiral Park J,
Ambassador Yunakimo. Captain Han Ta.
Dr. Sora Lee. They wore the same uniforms they had worn when they walked out of this chamber 2 months ago. The council members watched them in silence. There was no laughter this time. No jokes about primitives. Only the quiet respect of beings who had watched their world nearly end, and had been saved by those they had wronged. High Speaker Volan was gone. He had resigned in disgrace after the battle. Delegate Miros now stood in his place as acting leader of the council. Miros stepped forward and knelt before the human delegation. It was a gesture of complete submission, something no council leader had ever done before any species. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest apologies, he said. We were blind. We were arrogant. We treated you as servants when you were protectors. We mocked you when we should have honored you. We failed you in every way possible. He looked up at Yuna. You saved us anyway. After everything we did, you saved us. Why? Yuna looked down at him. Her face was calm, but something soft flickered in her eyes. Because that is what humans do, she said. We do not abandon people to die. Not even those who hurt us. Our compassion is not a weakness. It is our greatest strength. She offered her hand and helped Miros to his feet. But understand this, she continued, her voice growing harder. We did not come back for the council. We came back for the innocent people who would have died because of your mistakes. The children. The families. The billions who never called us servants. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate. We will never forget what happened here. We will never forget the insults, the laughter, the disrespect. And we will never again ask to join your council. Miros nodded slowly. Then what do you want? Park Jae stepped forward. We want nothing from you. We will return to our space. We will continue building our own civilization. And if the galaxy ever needs us again, we will decide for ourselves whether to help. But, Yuna added, we are willing to establish new relationships. Equal relationships. Treaties between sovereign powers, not membership in a club that never wanted us. She turned toward the exit, just as she had 2 months ago. We are building our own table now. Our own alliances. Our own future. If the council wishes to be part of that future, you are welcome to apply. She paused at the door and looked back. But this time, you will have to prove yourselves to us. The human delegation walked out of the grand chamber. This time, no one called after them. No one threatened them. No one laughed. The doors closed. And in the silence that followed, every being in that chamber understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The age of council supremacy was over. The age of humanity had begun. Not through conquest. Not through war. Through compassion, strength, and the simple refusal to be anything less than equal. On the shuttle back to their fleet, Han Tai looked at Admiral Park Jae and smiled. That felt even better than the first time. Park Jae allowed himself a small smile in return. It did, he agreed. It truly did. And far behind them, the stars continued to shine on a galaxy that would never be the same again.